Chapter 5 of Transforming Darkness, a Shadow Work Toolkit for the Red-Pilled Initiate. The Shadow in 4 Quadrants. Ken Wilber, the creator of integral theory, discovered that descriptions of any subject will always come from one of 4 essential perspectives. First person, I; second person, we; third person, it; and third person plural, its. These 4 perspectives are therefore dealing with mind, culture, body, and civilization or society, respectively. He mapped this out as a square with 4 quadrants. Each quadrant is often referred to by its position on the map, such as upper left, UL, lower left, LL, upper right, UR, and lower right, LR, respectively. By plugging our subject of the shadow into Wilber's 4-quadrant framework, we get a truly holistic and very practical map of the shadow across all areas of human reality, not just the psychological. When I do this, I get the following: the shadow of mind, cultural evil, disease in the body, and the collective deep state, respectively. It's important to realize when using this holistic lens that each of the 4 quadrants is not just showing us 4 separate phenomena, but rather each quadrant is a different view of a single holistic phenomenon. The shadow is an energetic archetype of destruction in human consciousness, which manifests across all known perspectives of reality. Here are some of the ways that the shadow can manifest in each of the 4 quadrants. Mind, upper left-hand quadrant. In the upper left quadrant, the shadow can be viewed through Jung's lens of the personal shadow of the psyche. It can also be seen through the indigenous framework of spirit possession or soul loss. In terms of religious sin, this is the mental states that underlie sin. This is where we find Jung's autonomous complexes, Eckhart Tolle's pain body, and Paul Levy's Wetiko. This quadrant deals with the full spectrum of mental illnesses, psychopathology, shadow repression and projection, neuroses, and all the destructive states in the personal mind. I'm also placing the disturbed states that rise up through relationships in this quadrant. This is the quadrant from which shadow work is usually taught. Culture, lower left-hand quadrant. In the lower left-hand quadrant, we are in the category of culture, which is a domain of information and shared collective values. On the religious side, we have the theology of sin and of religious evil, theodicy, as well as the mythic descriptions of demons and negative deities like Satan/Lucifer. On the secular side, we have all kinds of destructive cultural isms like Marxism, communism, fascism, globalism, or now wokeism, and of course the shadow side of capitalism and postmodernism. Here we are also dealing with government media propaganda and, quote, public myths. This is the domain of degraded morals and ethics and the spread of depraved cultural values. Anything that deals with the dark side of culture within art, media, philosophy, law, politics, science, and the like is here. Also, our beliefs that derive from those things that are shadow-tinted and act as mental malware or a mind virus are in this quadrant. Jung's collective shadow, the pain body or Wetiko, are transmitted through this quadrant. Body and behavior, upper right-hand quadrant. In the upper right-hand quadrant, we're dealing with the physical body, the brain, nervous system, immune functions, and the way our bodies physically respond to stress and distress. This is the domain of disease and illness, as well as the way we pathologically act out. Here we have addictions and self-destructive habits. This is the domain of neurochemical, hormonal, and physiological imbalance. This is also the domain of psychosomatic symptoms, where the shadow manifests in the body as syndromes and physical conditions. This domain is all about how we become physically ill as a consequence of imbalance in the psyche, culture, and lifestyle. Civilization, lower right-hand quadrant. In the lower right-hand quadrant, we have the shadow of civilization or society that I've called the collective deep state. In this quadrant, we're dealing with all the ways in which criminality and parasitism becomes integrated into the system. This is our corrupt banking, economics, and corruption of our legal system. Here we have all our various civilizational complexes, like the military-industrial complex, government, media, pharma complex, and every other type of corporate government complex. In this quadrant, we have all the various NGOs and agencies that parasite on society. This is the deep state, shadow government, or security state. Here you have monopolies, the New World Order, technocracy, secret societies, postmodern mafias. This is the shadow side of the entire physical matrix of civilization. We can, of course, now see that technology is contributing to our degradation, and this also belongs in this quadrant. As within, so without, holon jumping. You may notice that the red-pilled individual is mainly dealing with the bottom two quadrants. They are investigating corruption of our culture, media, and ethical standards, lower left-hand quadrant, as well as the way corruption is integrated into the physical system of civilization to parasite on the public and control them, lower right-hand quadrant. That's why I placed a red pill in the corner of those two quadrants in the image. What's missing is the connection between these quadrants and the shadow of the personal psyche, upper left, and that of the physical body, upper right. You might be aware of the military-industrial complex, lower right, but now trace down the energy behind that kind of complex in the individual. That's warrior energy and self-protective fight-or-flight energy, which are stress hormones in the body, like adrenaline, cortisol, upper right. It manifests in the personal psyche through Jungian archetypes and corresponding autonomous complexes, upper left. These fearful states are also mirrored in cultural consciousness through mass media and culture, lower left. But this is all one phenomenon. This is one profile of autonomous shadow parasitism that operates across all quadrants or domains of life. Expose false flag events and media pre-programming in the bottom two quadrants, then trace them back into the personal mind and body and treat them there. If you work on one, you will cause movement in all the others, and to treat one fully, you need to treat them all. We must work this out in greater detail, but this meta-theory suggests a new way to look at and treat human darkness in the 21st century. There is also another way of diagnosing the shadow in integral theory that relates to the so-called stages. Lower stages of consciousness present themselves to higher stages as shadow material. I will work on this for future releases.